Hi everyone, JK here, and welcome to the second part of Introduction to SSW Sophie in what state SSW Sophie currently is. So the next part is going to be SSW Sophie camera, and if we go into it, you'll see three documents. You'll see those three documents in most of the projects, and please read the instructions compiled carefully, especially for this project, because this project is a little bit special. So if we go on the top, you'll see the index and stuff like that. So here you'll already see something special, the UWP SDKs. You'll need the anniversary update build 14393, and you'll also need Windows 10 anniversary update or later. They'll be coming creators update on 11th of April, so you can use that as well. And what you're going to need is a webcam or Kinect version 2 with USB adapter. More about that later. So first, install Windows SDK. Use the Visual Studio installer. It's important that you use this specific version. You can install multiple versions of this SDK. That's no problem, but you need to have this specific version installed. When the newer version comes out, installing just the newer version will not be okay, because it's going to need this specific version. Just something to keep in mind. If you use webcam, you're all good to go. If you use Kinect version 2 with USB 3 adapter, keep in mind there's some hardware requirements. You can read more about this on internet. It's possible that even if your computer seems to be good enough for Kinect, that it actually has some components that are not good enough for Kinect. And there's also Face API. I have everything set up for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Just keep in mind that you only have 20 calls per minute because it's a free account. You can ask Stan to give you access to Azure, and ask him if he can enable the Microsoft Cognitive Services for you. And when he does that, you can actually create a paid Microsoft Cognitive service, and you'll have unlimited calls. Just check with Adam first if he's happy to do so. And the last thing before you can do the F5 experience is to make sure that you don't use any CPU. Set it to x86, which I recommend because you have less issues, or x64. In theory it should work both the same, but we sometimes experience some issues with x64, just to let you know. Now to switch to the project. This is the part I was talking about. Switch to x64 because any CPU may not work. And you can see we have two projects. One is Camera UWP, which is the main project, and Camera UWP service. If you need to know some details how this is implemented or change some specifics behind the scenes, this is where you do all of them. In the main page, we only have text blocks to display current status and which person was last identified, the capture element, which basically shows you the actual video, and the canvas control, which is the control that is being used to draw the rectangle around the faces, which I'll show you later. The code behind is minimum. It just initializes with the controls, and it returns an error if the view model hasn't been able to initialize correctly. Now let's look at the main view model. You'll see the main view model is very minimum. What it has is start icing. There's a lot of going on here, but it may seem a lot, but when you check all the services and what they're doing, you'll see that we managed to reduce the amount of code quite significantly. And the most important part for you is going to be find and identify faces, which essentially what it does, it gets the current frame for which we already know there are a couple of faces on it. It converts into stream and then uses the face service, which is the Microsoft Cognitive Toolkit, to communicate with Face API. This is the part we want to replace with with Sophie APIs. We currently don't do that because of the time constraint I had. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. And I'm hoping that one of you will be able to do this job. But essentially, the semantics should remain the same even with Sophie API. Maybe even it will be slightly simplified because Sophie API can already take some work off your shoulders. But to give you a quick tour what is going on, we are sending the entire image to detect function, which basically returns us all the faces on the image. And then we try to see if the faces were detected. And then we essentially try to identify those faces. Now, why we're doing this is because the way the Microsoft Cognitive Services works, you first send a picture where they try to figure out, well, where are all the faces, and then make a matrix of all the points on the faces. And they don't actually try to identify the person, and they just send you the IDs of those faces. And with identify method, you just send those face IDs and basically telling the Microsoft Cognitive Service, hey, I'm interested in those faces, who they are. And after that, we basically get the potential candidates for each individual identity. In most of the cases, we'll just have one candidate, and they're sorted from most likely to least likely, but usually we'll just have one candidate. So in most of the cases, it's all fine just to take the first one. And what you may see here, a very interesting thing is we take the candidate's person ID, and then we check into our local dictionary if you already contain that person ID. The reason behind it is because we don't get the full data from identity call. We need to get more data from Microsoft Cognitive Services, which is what this bit do, and it caches the person. So next time we get that person ID, we don't need to check it on Microsoft Cognitive Services. The reason why we're doing this is because we have limited requests per minute, and if we can reduce that amount, increases the chances that we will successfully get the identity of the person without reaching the limit. And lastly, we just essentially make a string of all the people we identify with the names, age, and gender. And one last thing that might seem to be interesting is the Oxford task. So what we're doing is we have made a pattern that we are processing only one action at a time, and we using tasks to achieve that. So here you can see I am setting the Oxford task as a 5-second delay task, which means that whatever action is trying to await Oxford task, it will wait for additional 5 seconds. And in case the rate limit exceeded exception happens, it's going to wait for 20 seconds. So in that case, we basically making sure that we're not spamming the Microsoft Cognitive Services when we actually know that, hey, we're not going to get any valuable information for at least a couple of seconds, so don't bother doing any requests in the meantime. And the reason why it's work is this method is called every time we get a face from the background services. And it basically checks if Oxford task is null, which is at the very beginning, or if it's completed, which essentially means either when the whole task is finished or the time has finished. So here you can see we call the find and identify faces, and we have it and we save this in Oxford task. And the is completed is only completed once either the entire task is completed, but in this case it will always be overridden by a task delay, so it's going to be is completed only when 5 seconds has elapsed after finishing everything, or 20 seconds after it failed one of the service calls. So that's pretty much everything from these parts. I would also encourage you to check the SSW Faces zip. I have already unzipped it. So here you have images of all employees, and here you have the JSON file. So here you can see all the all the employees and how it's structured. It's very easy to add a new employee. Just copy, paste, and change the name, and then change the relative path. And to basically add all the people, you'll have to check with, you'll have to analyze the Sophie CLI project. Just a moment, making sure we don't execute this part. Sorry about that. Running the wrong project. Let's just type help. Run new instance. And with help of Sophie CLI, what you can do is first clean the group. So you basically remove all the existing groups and then add users. And to help you with figuring out how to do this, you go open folder, you go bin, debug, you type cmd here, you do Sophie help. Sorry about that. I have opened the wrong. cmd Sophie help. And if you're interested in more, you can type Sophie add users help, which gives you instructions how to execute adding new users. So essentially what you do is you do -l equal finding this, copy as path, paste it and enter, and it's going to re-add all the people. I will not do this right now because it can take up to 10 minutes because we have only 20 requests per minute and we'll basically do a lot of requests onto Microsoft Cognitive Services. Oh, and one more thing. before I leave, I'll just give you a quick introduction into the web app itself. It's building, and that's me. You can see it's recognizing me down below. It hasn't really detected my correct age. I am much younger. And to show you, it just doesn't recognize me. I'll show you a really cool guy, Steve. And as you can see, it recognized Steve, and I think he recognized him to be younger than he actually is, and it can also recognize multiple people. And here's a quick introduction to Sophie camera. I hope this video helped you, and thanks for watching.